Intern and J. Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
What's going on? Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. It is Dark Side of the Stream.
Hola.
Episode 230.
My pick.
Jay's pick this week. It is a documentary called The Diamond Heist, which is directed by Guy Ritchie, who
so good.
has directed his own heist movies in the past. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of that story, what is your favorite heist movie?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, have you ever stole the diamond?
We'll ask about things we've stolen, but I know you didn't steal a diamond.
My favorite heist movie, Ocean's 11.
Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what the greatest heist movie of all time
Which
is?
one?
Heat.
What about that one, Aces?
Al Pacino,
Aces
Robert
or
De Niro,
Aces High
Val
or Aces?
Kilmer.
A Guy Ritchie one.
That one was okay.
I think it was pretty good too, right?
But Heat's the best.
Is Heat the best?
As far as like realistic heist movies, and that includes getting the crew together, the planning.
The Magician one too was good. Now You See Me.
Yeah, that one.
The
was pretty
Magician
good.
one.
But
Yeah.
the heist is literally the best bank robbing scene of all time. Have you ever seen Heat?
No.
Dude, please.
The other one too, The Town,
bro,
right?
I'm
The
telling
Town,
you,
isn't The Town a good one?
I'm telling you, call him.
Heat.
Send Jay messages. Tell him he's missing
Let me use
out
your
on,
password for whatever streaming service is on.
I think it's I think it's on Pluto for free right now.
Dude.
Yeah, Heat. Watch it. It's the best heist movie of all time.
Okay.
And it's like I said, you get federal agents like watching this thing and saying this is literally as realistic
As it goes down.
gets. It is. And what solidifies that is this story that we hear about this diamond heist.
Yeah.
Because ultimately somebody talked early enough on in the process that they were able to be followed throughout
That
the
was the crazy part,
entire
yeah.
thing.
They had such a great
So-
plan, but they were being literally.
They knew they couldn't tell them
gosh, that's a
exactly. They
bummer.
couldn't figure out exactly what they were doing. They eventually did. And we'll
I
get
was
into that in a
rooting for
second.
the bad guy. I was rooting for the criminals on this
Well,
one.
because it's such a well thought out plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And after the fact, when everyone's in jail and they're going through the court process, and these guys are like, "Look, the reason this started is because the security in that dome where you had close to $1 billion worth of diamonds.
They had it.
They didn't have any security guys walking around.
They had the plan. It was
They
perfect.
knew they
it
knew
was
exactly
perfect,
how to pull it
except
off.
these guys had
Except
to talk.
for some point, some guy ran his mouth.
Damn it.
It's always that. It's always that. And,
That's why you never tell your plans.
in regards to Heat, it was the girlfriend of one of the guys who ran her mouth.
See?
And because she thought he was cheating on her and he wasn't, and they used that to get her to talk, and she did, and then she realized she screwed up. You see them, just watch the movie. But it's always someone that talks.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to say. I'm not
Cut tongues out of everyone?
I'm not
Like the old days?
championing going out and robbing anyone or committing a felony. or
But
anything like
if
that.
you are going to
But
commit a crime,
if you are going to do something like that, make sure that you trust everyone that you're involving it with your life, and make
do
sure
we
that
trust
everyone.
Tyler right now not
No,
to talk?
I'm not going to tell him no plans.
No? You're not
As
gonna
soon
tell
as
no
I do,
plans?
The whole building knows.
We need his
He'd run his
brains
mouth.
in the operation. Oh, that's right. He doesn't talk to anyone here. He's
just did.
antisocial. He's we're his only friends.
It just blows my mind. It's always someone that runs their mouth. But anyway, the story itself is pretty incredible. The plan was great, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 230, The Diamond Heist on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, or Senor Stevens, as it were, in the studio this morning. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 230. We're doing the Diamond
We should
Heist.
probably address why I'm dressed in a mariachi costume.
Well, we don't want to give it up that we don't do these on.
okay.
I mean,
I just dress like this on random
Jay
days.
just loves to dress up in a mariachi costume from time to
Yeah.
time. He just has it in his
Spreading the
office and he
cheer.
puts it on. Just
Spreading
because
holiday cheer.
He wants to make everyone smile. But today we're doing Diamond Heist, and I guess our question is personal time. Have you ever stolen anything
Yeah.
that you're willing to admit? Other than hearts,
in my wild youth.
other what you're willing to admit. I will admit one. If
Okay,
you
let's hear
one.
yours first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I want to hear the level.
All right, so okay, well, oh geez, my parents did a really good job raising us, and like I never stole anything from anyone. My whole life, and even right now, there's only one instance where I did do something that I'm not proud of, but it was in response to how I was treated. what happened was me and two of my best friends, when we turned 18, decided we were going to go to Colorado and camp Rocky Mountain National Forest the week leading into Christmas in December. Okay, like wind chills -20,
Right.
-3.
Too cold.
I think I've been in and told this story. I got
Yep.
super dehydrated.
Too cold. Yep.
Almost died.
Yeah, you
Anyway,
almost died.
on our way out there, we stayed a night in Estes Park. And while we were there, this is the hippie town. We're just hanging out, running around, blah, blah, blah. We go into this, like, this kind of, like, shop. And it wasn't a head shop or anything. It was just, like, this weird, like, trading post shop. But they had a bunch of, like, Tibetan moccasins. And, like, it was wild. Well, we're in there just kind of hanging out. And, you know, I look like this. I looked probably like this when I was 18. So, you know, it's not like I'm nefarious. I probably just look like a kid who smokes too much pot. Either way, we're walking around, and this guy just starts getting onto us and just like we're like finally my buddy looks at me and goes, if he thinks we're doing something bad, let's do something bad.
No.
So we each took something and walked out of
You
there.
each took something.
Yeah, we each took something. I took sandalwood prayer beads, stubbed them in my pocket, and walked out. Jeff
Prayer
took-
beads. That's
Jeff
how
took
ironic. You stole prayer beads.
Buddhism sandalwood prayer beads that smelled incredible. And then I think Jeff took some mock. I can't remember. But ultimately, we believe in karma, and that is, I think, why the trip ended up being so
See what
horrible
happened?
after
See what
that. Is
happened?
because we did something to combat what this guy had done and made us feel like we were trash. And it was like, oh, you think we're trash? Well, in
Yeah,
essence,
yeah.
our actions proved he was right.
Yeah.
And then karma came and smacked our.
So you guys
butt
got
in the
double
hand.
screwed.
So
Yeah,
this is what I'm saying,
not
guys.
good, not
Even though
good.
sometimes you feel like you could take justice into your hands, don't do it, because karma, she will wield that wheel at you, and she did. We got our payback big time.
Yeah, you did.
So I guess that was probably like $5 to $10. It wasn't like
Okay. My story's a little different.
That's your level, bud.
My story was when the first PlayStation came out, PlayStation 1. And it was, you know, quite a lot of money.
I remember firing it up the first time
Oh,
and playing
gosh,
Tekken
the
and that
best.
noise.
Absolutely the best, dude. Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah, for
you can play a
Tekken.
game on CD?
For Tekken, dude. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I remember.
So there's the PlayStation, and I look down the toy aisle, and there's a very similar sized box that says the game Lucky Ducks for $20. So I thought, well, why don't I just take the PlayStation out and put it in the Lucky Ducks box and go? So that's what I did, and so I bought the PlayStation for $20.
So you know why they have security
That's
tags
why.
on boxes?
This is
when you
before
go, you
all
have
that.
to,
This
like,
was
wait
in-
for the
this
guy
is in
to
my
come
youth.
and put it over the metal strip.
Nope, this is before all that.
You can blame this guy for creating.
We
that.
were criminal masterminds in our young teens.
Yeah, well, that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, it worked.
But at least you got a PS1. We'll be back to talk about what these guys are going to steal next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio discussing the Diamond Heist, directed by Guy Ritchie. And again, it's a really good documentary in the sense that you really get to follow every step of this thing.
Yeah, very
and
cool how they mapped it out.
what they planned out. And so inevitably at the beginning, someone runs their mouth. A couple of these guys start getting tailed. And there are a couple other incidences where armored trucks had been almost attempted to being robbed.
Yeah, and they had a
end
funny name.
They end up trailing that to a farm where they see the vehicles. That leads to more investigation, and they start to get a picture that there's
And a
group,
boat was used in a previous one.
that
right?
was part of
Yeah.
it too. And the dome in which all these diamonds were being held is right on the Thames River, and they start to figure out that they're planning on something big. And then while they're I guess the detectives are kind of like figuring out what these guys are up to, someone suggested, well, maybe they're after the diamonds in the dome. Someone just throws that out there.
First, I thought maybe they're up for the cash from the vendors at the
That
dome.
was part of because originally
Yeah.
they were going after those
Right.
trucks, and that's kind of where they were leaning. Maybe that was to just kind of create some smoke and mirrors. If that was part of it, it was smart. But what they started to figure out as they were tailing these guys, what they were doing dry runs where multiple guys would go
Yep.
into the dome during certain days.
Yep, case it
and
out,
then they
look
would see this
around.
guy who they would call the boatman, who would show up on this little propelled inflatable boat on the Thames. It always happened when the tide was high,
Yeah.
and then they would leave. Nothing would ever happen. And so they were like, what are they? And then they figured out they're going to do this when the tide's high so that they can get away quicker.
good,
and so
dude.
that at that point they knew as soon as the tide's high, they're going to try and pull this off. And so it was really ingenious what the police did in the sense that day, you know, the entire crew inside the dome is all undercover officers. They got guys behind the false wall.
I really wish that we could have seen it without them knowing what was going down and seen this play out, because it was such a good plan.
It was a good plan. The guys, when they ended up getting caught, and there's nothing to prove this otherwise, they said there was no violence. The nail gun that they bought was to break.
Of course.
And they kind of proved that. They didn't come out with...
No, they're not.
When I talk about heat, those guys are armed to take on a full tactical police group. These guys didn't show up with a bunch of...
They're thinking they're just going to get in and out. Nobody knows nothing. Nobody gets hurt.
They
nothing.
literally have the tools in which they needed to get it done and get out without anyone hurt. Now, back to what you're saying, the police get involved and they don't know what's happening. You get a itchy finger security guy that takes a shot at them. Then people start getting killed. That's when bad things happen, i.e. heat. When you watch that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But they were prepped for it. These guys, they tried really hard, I think, to avoid that, because they knew that if they get busted, they're like 10 to 15. And, you know, if you're talking about the possibility where you can get $1 billion, is that worth 10 to 15 years of your life?
Right.
I mean, some people would take that gamble. But they... In what you see throughout watching this documentary, I think I have to side with them. Like, I don't really think they were going to go in there with the intent that if it went bad, they were willing and ready to shoot themselves out of there. They just didn't have... with what they got caught with, it doesn't speak to that. And so you have to kind of believe them that it was a crime of opportunity. They did a really good job trying to figure it out.
Great job planning.
Ultimately, it was just some idiot that ran his mouth.
See?
That's it. Or we'd be talking about...
Don't befriend idiots.
Group of London dudes, or we probably wouldn't even know who they were. These group of guys that had the biggest diamond heist in history, and we still don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And because, like, the other thing I thought was interesting, too, and a big part of this scene is that when they were going through all the stuff they got busted with, they're like, well, what's with the bulletproof vests? And they go, the reason we had those wasn't because of you. It was because we were trying to protect ourselves with the people who were going to buy the diamonds from us after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to prepare for the idea that they go through part of this, which is stealing the merchandise, and then the real gamble starts is, I got to trust this nefarious character.
Yeah, because how do you sell something that's so popular it just been stolen?
You got the Star Diamond, the Hope Diamond in your
can't
hand,
just go walk down to the pawn shop and
you got a guy who's going to fence it for you, but... Then, you know what I mean? Like, that in itself is just as much of a gamble as stealing.
You can't sell it. You can't sell it.
Except for unless you have a buyer that's willing to put the money up, in which inevitably they did.
But what does he do with it? Like, because it's too famous.
I mean, it's laundering money. Like, if, for example, you're Pablo Escobar, then you're making, $500 billion a year in drug trafficking, right? You can't spend that money, right? You have to launder it. Either you give your cousin who's got a laundromat money to run his business. Tyler, he's promoting a casino, and they just pay their bands $5,000 a shot, and you're like, how the hell?
I'll play there.
That's all laundered money. To like a lot of art pieces that go missing and stuff. That's just a way to launder your money. Because
dinosaur bones.
You got a Monet hanging in your. There's your $500 million that you did, and again, you might not ever sell it. But
if you're listening at home and you have some money that needs to be laundered, I can help you.
A bunch of examples.
You can hire me, and I'll do various tasks.
Jay will find all kinds of ways.
Yeah, I'll find ways to spend your money.
Either way, we'll be back to talk about our reviews of this documentary next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 230 this week. The Diamond Heist. It was on Netflix, right?
Yeah. Just popped up randomly, and what a great! It was a great
one.
Really
I give it a solid 4.
Yeah, for sure, solid 4.
One episode, really
just
good,
nice.
Well-directed
Shot really well. Felt like an action movie.
They did a really good job. I mean, the source material is really easy to work with. You get a guy like Guy Ritchie who has that source material where, since they were literally investigating these guys since day one, they're all facts. It's not like we just listened to Jay in prison tell me how it worked. It was like they had investigated.
The funniest was they played that clip of the police talking, and they're like, "Yeah, this heist was almost like a Guy Ritchie movie." And then so they used that in there.
Well, because of how much planning has gone into it.
So good, dude.
Especially that time, early 2000s, those movies were like really popular.
And those English guys like that, those English criminal types, they're just so funny. Their personalities are so big, you know.
Those dudes are hardcore guys. But again, props to them for a great idea. Unprops to them for letting letting someone who shouldn't have known about it run their mouth.
Yeah.
And again, props to the law enforcement for always having an ear to the. They always got informants out there, man.
These police
and they
really-
they keep them in their pocket, and it works sometimes. It pays off. I mean, it stopped a $1 billion diamond heist, so
Darn, man. Too
it works
bad.
out. As always, next week is my pick. We're going to go into Paramount Plus to watch
So
the
we need your mom's
documentary
passcode again on this.
Casa Bonita, Mi Amor,
What
which
is
is the story of Matt and Trey from South Park buying Casa Bonita in Denver, Colorado, and redoing it because it was going to get sold, and it kind of had fallen off on better. It had better days. You ever go to Casa Bonita?
No.
They actually had one in Tulsa, in Oklahoma City, for a long time. They're not there, but the one in Denver is still there, thanks to Matt and Trey from South Park.
And that's why I dressed like this,
Yeah, that's
mariachi costume.
They put like $30 million in that too, of their own money.
Well, it was in the show, right? It wasn't in South Park?
Well, yeah, because that's part of the shtick. But
lore.
yeah, now it's part of their shtick too.
Nice.
So yeah, so we're gonna watch Paramount Plus. Thanks, Mom, for the password. As always, you can listen to us do this at 9 and 6 every Thursday. You can watch us do it on Facebook at the same time or YouTube, and then of course download this as a podcast from our.
We have
free
yet someone to show up at the
104.7
station to come do it with us. We really, if you really are passionate about one of these documentaries,
Yeah.
we wouldn't turn you away.
We would love it if you could. But again,
But now we might get a line of out the door next week.
yeah, probably not. I just want to see your stupid mariachi outfit, maybe.
I may dress differently next week.
As always, I'm Mike the Intern. That's Senor Stevens reminding you we
Hola.
watch movies so you don't
¿Qué
have
pasó? Ni
to.
pasó y te le documentros.
It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
That's good. Some
Was good.
on the fly Spanish.
It was good. That's not, I mean, kind of.
Documentros. That's pretty close to how you say it.
No.
How do you say documentary in Spanish?
I think this is documentary.
Oh, come on, now it's documentos.
Documentaro or something.
Documentos.